What's up, everybody? How y'all doing tonight? It's Carpo. Kicking back, doing a little bit of work, trimming some nuggets. Thought I'd make a video while I do it because, because I got some stuff on my mind and I like to share it. Turn the music down a little bit here, though. So I just clipped these beautiful nugs. I just have to do some final trimming here. And I was answering my comment, or not my comments, I was stood up for a minute to take a break and I checked YouTube. Flipping through some comments on there, and there was one comment somebody left a long time ago, and whenever you comment on a thread, it's like you get 1,000 comments coming in. You have to mute a lot of threads. Well, I do. I mean, I don't like to hear every person's response to one person that I responded to or something. And it was this guy who had left a comment about global warming a while back, saying how it's not man-made and it's just all politics. I don't get into the debate on global warming as far as whether it's man-made or natural. At this point, it's happening. So, we have to deal with it. Knowing that man is contributing to it has caused us to, regardless of whether or not we think it is man-made or not, we have done better by buying more fuel-efficient cars and recycling and taking care of our planet as best we can. But unfortunately, of course, I saw a newscast the other day that said that SUV sales are way up now that gas prices are down. This really just shows how dumb people are. I mean, the ignorance to think that, what, you're going to have a car for 10 years, you're going to go spend 30 grand on an SUV and then have to pay for gas for it just because it's a little cheaper right now. I don't know. Mentality is out there. But anyway, this isn't about SUVs. So a 14-year-old girl left a comment on there, and it was innocent enough. And she says, all you adults ever talk about is politics. You need to get off your asses. The planet is suffering. And she said something to the effect of, the planet is, she's a lot healthier on her own. So this is just a nutshell. So my response to that was that, first off, us adults are doing the best we can. And it's that finger pointing at one generation or another saying, you should be doing this. But the answer I had was more complicated and something that I wouldn't have realized years ago. I said it is political. Not in the sense that the whole global warming thing is political, but everything is political. We live in a political society, and we are political creatures. We like politics. Some people call it drama, or some people take drama to become politics, such as politics in the family, politics in the workplace. We as humans have this desire for it, and a need for a certain degree of understanding the political nature of things. So, with the global warming thing, my thought was that if it's man-made, or if it's not, it doesn't matter at this point. But most people, even though we know that it's unstoppable at this point, and that we may not contribute as much as we thought, people are still continuing to conserve and do the right thing, myself included. And we're all doing little things to try to help the world. And each one of you has your own thing. And remember, you know, there's always that guy that says, you should be doing this, or you shouldn't be eating meat, or you shouldn't be wearing fur, whatever their particular cause is. Lead by example, but don't point the finger kind of thing. I'm pretty big on, a few particular things, but a lot of things I could probably work on myself. But as an adult, as one of the people that was lumped together in that idea, I can see where she's coming from. When I look back at my thoughts when I was 14 about the parents, the adults in my generation, they just seemed ignorant. They seemed stupid. They seemed like they didn't have it together. They seemed like they couldn't, like they were behind the times, Hey, Atari comes out. Parents can't figure it out. Oh, I was rocking the Atari. Yeah, first game. Oh, yeah, I had a ColecoVision. Of course, my dad played Asteroids with me and stuff. Jumpman Jr., he liked that game. So, adults do their best to keep up on the times. They enjoy some of the new things, but adults still have that attitude of, oh, that's just, kids stuff. And so kids see that and assume that adults just can't keep up with the times. And sometimes that's true. But a lot of the times that's true. I mean, being a father, it's like I want to be able to know what kids are doing today. Not what, oh, the kids back in my day did this. And I try really hard not to be that guy. But I do that sometimes. Say, oh, well, when I was a kid, or, starving kids in China, that kind of crap, metaphorically speaking. But, every parent has had a kid, let's say, who doesn't eat. Say something like, hey, there's kids who don't have any food, there's kids that go hungry, it's just certain things that are carried down through generations. And my generation, I tried to break away from many of the adult thoughts about traditionalism and the way that things are, the way that the people thought, especially about something like, I'd look at the way that generation looked at marijuana, and I thought, what about you idiots? They don't know better. But then our generation was the same way. There's just as many idiots in every generation. So there may be one wise, hip 14-year-old that's aware of these things among an entire school or group of kids who think they have it figured out, but haven't understood the depth of real life. And I was one of them. In fact, I was just talking to my brother earlier about this, saying, when we look back on ourselves, we think, oh, we were dumb kids, but we also think I think of myself as like, well, back then I thought I'm the smart guy and the rest of these guys are idiots. And that's a typical teenage attitude for a lot of people. It's more of a, arrogance. But I found myself over the years becoming more and more humble after seeing what an asshole people who act like that are. Those people that think they have it figured out. It's just because you grew up doing something or grew up doing something a certain way, it doesn't mean it's right. So, my generation, the adults of today, are we any better or worse than the previous generations? We just know a few more things. But we're really trying. And so I guess I didn't want to say, go off too long here, but talking about, the way that my generation is viewed from a younger generation standpoint. Somebody who's 15 and 16 now who may be watching this video. And to let them know that sometimes it seems like the adults have given up, as if, well, they're still going to work, they're doing their 9 to 5, they're stuck in the mundane routine, you're part of the machine. My brother told my mom once, he said, I'll never be a bean counter like you. And she remembers that to this day. I mean, he was only like 14 at the time. And that was years, decades ago. And she says, I'll never forget that, because she said, up until that point in my life, I never considered, I didn't even know what a bean counter was. And she said, she said that she'd never really realized that, or saw herself that way. She was just doing what her generation was taught to do. Pure and simple. You go to work, you make a living, you feed your family. So, when I was younger, I tried to break away from that. I'm like, I don't have to, work a 9 to 5 job. I don't have to make money. I don't have to be part of this society. I can go out and do my own thing, man. I can go travel the world, and I don't have to buy money. I can just figure out a way to get some land, all the pipe. Yeah, good thing I heard that thing end. Whoop. So anyway, yeah, as I was saying, the old pipe dream of, yeah, I'm just going to travel the world and enjoy myself, and I'm not going to be part of the system. And you get older, reality hits, and you realize that everybody's part of the system, no matter what you try to do. And we all have solutions to get around parts of it, such as, you know, but then there's certain people who are telling you things like opt out. Like there's one guy who, you know, well, I don't even want to get into details or names, but some guys will tell you, don't buy into society, you're a slave to the system, don't vote, don't be part of it, don't, you know, just don't do anything related to being part of society. And it's just like, it's totally counterproductive to any type of a movement or change in the world. So it's kind of like the monks hiding out in the caves, you know. Maybe great for certain places where there's persecution or they needed to hide out, but today, you know, we need more monks out in the open, metaphorically speaking. We need the people who understand these things to come forward and stop cowering behind the fear of ridicule by their peers, because that's a major issue with my generation. They know better, but they're afraid to say it because the rest of the group doesn't agree with them. And you know, say at the workplace, those kind of politics, that can be tough. If you're working with a bunch of fucking right-wing rednecks and you just can't, you know, you can't stand them. Worked with plenty in the construction industry. You know, and all they're talking about is this and that. Yeah, the niggers and the Mexicans are taking their jobs, and you just hear this stupid, repetitive bullshit from people. And you're just like, ugh. I hear so many people say shit like that, and just, I watch people ignore them or go, ha. And I'm the guy who says, nah, dude, that's not funny. You know, I don't laugh alone. So, there are good people out there that care, that may not appear to care. The average Joe. And that's in every generation. And I should extend this to the adults, you know, that when I was a kid, poking fun at the adults, my parents and their generation, or even their parents, just thinking, what a bunch of idiots. The white picket fence, the American dream, you really think that's possible? Well, it was possible for a while. It's just fortunate for them that they were ignorant to what was really going on in the world. How we were, you know, keeping a perpetual war machine so we can tax the people, and printing fiat currency, going off the gold standard. All this happened under the noses of the people, and they didn't know any different. And now with the internet, there's all these little younger generation pioneers who have found out all this information right away when they're young. And all of a sudden they think that, you know, the rest of the world's ignorant, that the adult generation's ignorant, and a lot of the times it's true, if the people aren't willing to look at the information. In fact, my own mom, I remember her saying stuff like, you know, if I quote something and say, well, this isn't true, you know, it's actually this way, she's like, oh, did you read that on the internet? And she's coming around. That's just an example, but that's the mentality that the other generations have towards the internet. And because there was a time when everything on the internet was questionable, but it's like, well, yeah, I saw it on the internet. Well, where'd you get your news? Well, I saw it on CNN or Fox News. Well, I can go to CNN.com and get that in 5 minutes. I can get the whole report and the details and everything. So, you know, there's no using the internet excuse to say, well, the internet's useless. But there are a lot of people gaining a lot of information from the internet. I think it's a great thing. It's just unfortunate that people think that it's like the answer to everything, because it's not. It's almost like there's so much on there that we feel like we can answer any question through Google. And you ever like tried to find something and not be able to find anything about it? Like look up a model year refrigerator, you know, and you want to fix a part, and you just Google it. There's like nothing, you know, maybe a thread or something. You're like, what? You mean there's no fact sheet? You look up an address, oh my god, there's no MapQuest? How do I function? So we rely on technology a lot, and we think that we know everything because of it. But just remember, the internet's the input of the user is, and there's a lot missing from that world. And I guess I'm just tying this back into the politics, the reality of what's really going on, as opposed to our pipe dream that we can start driving electric cars and stop burning fossil fuels and fix our planet, and everybody dances around merrily. Because most of us know that the shit's got to hit the fan. It's got to get dirty. Got to get your hands dirty. You got to get people motivated to make change, but you've got to know what that change is. And I'll be damned if I know what it is. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the solution to the problems, because that's just ignorance. That's just ignorance. And I don't think the rest of you should either, and I don't think anybody in the world should go around pretending like they have all the answers, but a lot of people do. A lot of people do. And a lot of people have a lot of the answers. The problem is that nobody has all the answers. There's a million people out there with one or two of the answers, and they have to come together as people, as a community, in order to share those answers. And there's really no way to check each other's work sometimes. I guess that's something we have to remember and tell ourselves that, well, so-and-so said that this is true, and this guy over here says this is true, but neither one of them understand each other's work. I guess that's a long way of saying that science is imperfect, and the spiritual world is no better. What's all this talk about indigo children and DNA sequence changes and new strands and all this? It's like this whole thing, it got me for a while, and I looked into it and I found nothing, what is the proof of these, that these generations of children have anything different other than just being smarter and being raised in a smarter environment? It's not that I deny that there's a higher vibrational level going on, or maybe that it's possible that there maybe is some awakening going on, but so far there's no real evidence of it other than a few people claiming to channel these ideas. And I'll be honest, the channelers are the ones that convince me, I should say, the channelers are the one that take away my hope quite often, because the stuff that they say is just so mundane and seems like bogusness. But whatever sells DVDs and gets people to go to seminars, it's a world of suckers out there that want to believe they got the answer. They get so far into it that they convince not only other people, but they convince themselves. And that's the grand delusion right there. When you convince yourself that what you believe is true because you've been feeding bullshit to people for so long. I'm just going off randomly now, but I'm just thinking about a lot of these psychics, fly-by-night psychics, astrologers, people who want to sell you books and stuff about how to make your life better and how to improve your life based on their experience. And they're telling you how to live your life rather than just saying, hey, this might or might not work. It's like this is fact world. That's kind of, how would it feel to live in a factual world where we know everything? I mean, where we really understand where each other are coming from, where we're given all the information we need to solve every problem without having to work for it. It's just not realistic. In other words, suffering is human. To err is divine, that kind of stuff. I like life. I think it's fun.